this is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments. Welcome back to my channel. Today we get to visit Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and do some photos from waiting in line and hanging out there with the red rocks and dinosaur bones, which is fun. Let's check out my workspace and we'll get started. All right, here's my workspace for today, and we are going to do a layout today for Big Thunder Mountain Railroad for Disneyland. And the virtual crop for Creative Memories for March just happened this past weekend, so you're going to be seeing this, I think, probably next week. Keep in mind, as I keep trying to remind you, if you participate and get all of the virtual crop sketches done and posted to the CM virtual crop group, by the end of the year they'll enter you in a special drawing. So even if you don't get them in on time for the drawings each month, you can still get them done and submit them. So it's a worthwhile thing, I think. Their drawings are always worthwhile. The merchandise that they give away and the product they give away is really, really awesome. So anyway, today I have pulled several things from the train collection. If you are a CM customer or advisor, then you will remember this collection from, I'm not sure when it came out actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Probably a couple of years back, though. It's been a little while. But I had it in my stash, and I had some cool laser borders that I had not gotten the opportunity to use. So I decided this would be the perfect opportunity to put those into use. We're also going to create our own train tracks, and we're going to use I have a couple of samples of different punches that you could use to do that, depending on the size of your train that you're trying to put on your layout. So we'll get to that when we are ready to create that border. We're going to do challenge number 3 today, and so you can see it's a double page spread, which you know that I prefer, and this one accommodates the number of photos that I need to accommodate, which is nice, and should lend itself pretty well. We'll see how easily it goes together, but it looks like it is pretty straightforward, so I think it will go together fairly easily. So let's check out the other supplies that I have here on my desktop. So we've got a couple of laser borders. We've got the train. We've got these circles that are kind of the marker for a railroad track that's coming. And these cool stars, which I really don't know exactly what they have to do with trains, but they were part of that collection, and I just like them, so I think we might use them. And then this neat circle track, which is cool, and I don't think I could actually make this without a lot of tedious snipping, so that's going to be fun to use too. I have these photographs from when we were standing in line and waiting, and then a couple for when we were actually on the ride with the dinosaurs track or dinosaur bones and stuff. It's just a fun, if you've ever been on the ride, it's a very fun kind of perfect for that area of Adventureland. I have some papers from the train collection as well. I have these two, which are actually Fast to Fab related. Actually, I think all of these are Fast to Fab related, but these two that have some train business on both sides, but we're going to use the red side as our base for this layout. And because I think it would be too confusing to put the Fast to Fab with the, I just think it would be too much. So we're not going to worry about that today, and I'm going to use the opposite sides. This is also Fast to Fab. You can see that it's fun. It's got these fun train bits on the vertical sides, but again, we're going to use this side instead. This sheet with all the tracks on it, and then this one with all the arrows, because I think it will be more fun to do that and use our laser borders. The laser borders will stand out more if we have less busyness on the page. That's what we're going to do. So let's trim and cut some papers. Okay, so I've got my trimmer here, and we're going to cut a couple of things. So I'm going to put the red sheets with the pluses and minuses, and actually these are pluses and multiplication signs, X's. I'm going to move those to the side. We're not going to need those just now. We're going to cut these two pieces mainly, and we're going to start with the arrow paper. So the arrow paper is going to be this tall section here. Thanks to CM giving us our measurements, this should come together pretty easily. So we need this to be cut at 4 1/4 wide. So 4 1/4, and it's already 12 inches high. So there's our center strip. Then I'm also going to use the arrow paper for underneath this main strip that's going to come across up here. So we need a piece of paper that is going to be we need two 2-inch strips. So we're going to cut two 2-inch strips for underneath our border that will go. And then let's see, we're going to save this for another day and grab our track paper. And the track paper we're going to cut we're going to cut two pieces that are 3 inches, and then two 1-inch strips. So two pieces at 3 inches, 3 by 12, 3, and then we're going to cut two 1-inch strips. The 1-inch strips go across the bottom here. The 3-inch strips go across the top underneath the border that goes there. Okay, so then the rest of this paper can be set aside over here. And now let's go ahead and get some of this assembled, and then we're going to do some punching. Or actually, you know what? Let's do the punching first. Why not? Okay, so I want to make a train track from these that will go across this. And I'm going to place my train on it. So knowing that, I need to be able to look at my train and decide which track is going to make more sense. Is this the track that my train should go on? I think it actually might be. I think the other track is going to look a little bit too small. So this is the scary, what I know as the scary fence. You can see I've labeled it scary fence. This is the rustic fence that you can see my cartridge is blue. This came from Old Company way back in the day that the Border Maker first came out. But the newer ones are black. They brought the rustic fence back recently, and it's sold out again, so they're going to bring it back again. I understand it just has not made it back just yet. So if you like this one, just hold tight. It'll be available again soon. So this would make kind of an interesting railroad track. However, the posts are not regular, so it would be definitely an old railroad track, right? And I think it's too small for this train. Let's hold the train up to it and see what we think. But yeah, actually, it might actually be better to do than this one. This one might be too big. Okay, I think I do like this one better, and it will fit better on our border as well. So I think I think we're going to pass on the Victorian fence punch, but just so that you know, you can make a really nice railroad track with this. You would just punch it and then trim off all of these extra knobs at the top, and it becomes a very nice railroad track. Unless you are fortunate enough to have the CM railroad track punch that came out not too long ago. I actually chose not to get that because I knew that I had all these other options that I could make my own. So I chose not to, but if you have it, then I would use that. Okay, we are going to use the Border Maker cartridge, so because of that, I have gotten out my Border Maker system, and we're going to load the paper, fold this back. Let me grab the housing for this cartridge. Ta-da! Okay, so we're just going to punch this. I'm going to make 2 of them so that they can go across both of my pages, and you'll notice that on some of these fence posts, they have definite fence post qualities. They're pointy at the top, right? We probably don't want that in our final version of this, so I will need to trim those off, which is fine. It's just one tiny little extra step, but we can do that. Okay, I'm just going to flip this around and punch the other side. That way I don't have to get any Post-it notes out or anything like that for my paper that might be just a little short. And this punch is a fun one, but sometimes it does get a little hung up. So it's good to go in at each notch, punch, and then come straight out, and then go into the next one rather than sliding it along like you can do with some of the cartridges. This one tends to get stuff stuck in it. Okay, we're going to do one more. There we go. Come on, get out of there. Okay. Get all this off my table. Cool. Now we'll just trim these and trim up our fence posts, and then we'll be good to go and ready to assemble this page. That's coming together very quickly, don't you think? I think so. Okay, put that back over there. We're going to trim this off right at the edge of that fence post. So put this right up to your cutting line on your trimmer and just trim off all those posts. Now you're going to have one side of this that is very even and one side of this that is not as even. And that's just kind of the way it goes when you use a punch like this. So if you want them to be a little more uneven, you can go in and trim them that way. It's completely up to you how you want to do that. I'm going to grab my precision point scissors just because they're a little bit easier to handle, and I'm going to come in here and just sort of trim off at odd angles the pointier ends of these more pointy portions of the punch. Oop, it looks like I missed one. You can make some of them longer, some of them shorter. That's the whole idea of it being kind of a rustic fence. But in our case, it's a rustic railroad tie. And I'm going to leave the other edge the way it is. I think it'll be okay. So I'm going to come back in and trim off these just really quickly. Okay, all done. Let's get these little bits off. All right, now we can go ahead and assemble this. So let me grab my base pages. All right. Just gonna set that up there. I'll move this up here so that it's a little bit more easily referenced. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just add these 1-inch pieces to the bottom first. And you can start on in whichever corner you like. I tend to start and build mine from the middle out because sometimes you end up with a little bit of irregularity, not with these designer papers really much, but sometimes when you're dealing with cardstock and designer paper, occasionally you get a variance in size, which, you know, when you're trying to build something as precise as possible, can be a little annoying, but it is what it is. It's just kind of how things are done in the industry. Okay, so we've got that done. We're going to build the top. Let's build the top section. So we're going to take each of these 3-inch pieces. I'm going to add my adhesive in about 5 places down each side and just a tiny bit on the edge. If it's wider than 2 inches, I tend to add just a little bit on that edge. And since I know that these papers are the same size, I'm going to go ahead and just add this from this outer edge rather than starting in the middle. Okay, so there's one. Now we'll do this second one. So now we've got those two. Now we're going to take these white pieces. These are going to go down the center. So these will go straight down the middle. So just center them in that 3-inch piece best you can. We had so much fun on this ride that and it rocked us around so much that my daughter actually lost her phone around the very last curve, right before we slowed down to come back into the station. Her phone flew out of the car that we were sitting in. So we had to go back at the end of the evening, like at 12:30 at night when the park closed, after they'd been able to walk the track and retrieve her phone. That was interesting, an interesting experience. She was a little anxiety ridden through that whole experience, but it all worked out. Okay. Now it doesn't really matter which way you focus your train, but I'm going to have my train track kind of down in the lower half of the layout with the this is with the not straight, with the irregular edge towards the bottom, because we'll see that a little bit more. The train will go on top of the track, so we won't notice the top of it as much. Okay, so Whenever you are putting your adhesive on a punched piece like this, you need to just kind of be careful because it can tear very easily. So just be as gentle as you can while you pull that adhesive on. I'm going to line up my pages like this so that I can line up my track so it will be in the same place on both sides of my layout. As straight as I can make it, right? Across there. All right, so now this piece is going to go down. This is the wider piece that's vertical that we cut. It's 4 1/4 by 12. Okay, this is this piece right here underneath these photos. And it goes right along the center edge of our layout. Okay, so starting at the lower corner, working it up to make sure that edge is right. I can see that I don't know, you probably can't see this on camera, but I can see that my railroad ties are coming across that edge, so I'm just going to trim them off so that no one else can see them. Apparently I didn't get that centered quite right. Okay, now I'm going to take our cute little train and I'm going to put 1/3 of it on this side and the other 2/3 on this side. So I'm going to cut it, and I actually drew a line just to kind of give myself some guidance. I'm going to just cut it right there, and that way I can come on. I can go ahead and add this on with some repositionable adhesive. And our train's just going to sit on that the lower track, or the lower horizontal line as it goes across. Okay, so just like that. I'm throwing my adhesive around. Watch me. Okay, and then the other 2/3 are going to come over here and just sit right on the top of that lower edge and line up right from our arrow paper over. Okay, so there's our train. Now I'm going to use a few of these stars to kind of fill in a little bit of the additional track on either side. So I'm just going to take my scissors and come in here, and I'm going to just continue that point. Not so much anyway. So that's going to go there. This side is going to have still just room for 3, so we'll just cut our other 3 from the other side. Okay, so we've got 3 on each side. We'll go ahead and put those down. You could probably pop some of these up with some foam squares, but I'm not going to worry about that just now. We're just going to put these down with some repositionable adhesive and it'll be fine. Not really liking that. Okay, so when I cut this, the inner core of this laser border is white, so it's very easy to see that. And I'm not fond of it. So I just trimmed it just a little bit more, that's all. Now what I'm going to do is let's lay out our photos and see how these are going to work on this page. So they've got 2 vertical photos. I definitely want this one of Haley. That's super cute. We can do this one. It looks like her brother's kind of giving her what for, or we could do this one. Let's do this one for sisters. That's cute. Maybe we'll save those for another time. All right, so we have this cute horizontal photo of the whole family and this cute picture of the whole ride, or the entrance to the ride. So we'll put those kind of like that. This is us taking off on the ride. This is us waiting. This is us on the ride. So maybe what we'll do is move. So this was after we were done. This is as we're taking off. I'm going to trim these down, so don't worry too much about this. And this one I'm going to cut into a 4x4, I think. Or maybe we'll just trim both of those into 4x4s, because you don't really need my eyeball right here in the corner. Haley doesn't really look like she had very much fun. She looks a little concerned in that. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to grab my trimmer and trim a few of these up and get them secured, and then we'll come back and do a little bit more. Okay, so I think this is the way it's going to lay out, right, just like this. I'm going to need a portion here for the title. So, and for our track that we want to, that I want to add right here. I'm going to cut another little bit of this arrow paper to fit in here. Now, I should mention that I did cut these photos down a little more than I thought I was going to. Each one of these is 3.5 by 5.5. Each one of these is actually 3.5 by 6. I did not shorten it at all. These are 3.5 by 6, and these are 4 by 3.5. 4 inches long and 3.5 high, so that they match the height of these. This one is still a 4 by 6, and I'm going to leave it as a 4 by 6. So I'm going to make this 6 inches long so that it matches this, but I think I'm going to need to measure and determine how high it needs to be, because those in the center are going to be about there. So then that one's going to be about there, and that will leave me, let's do 2 3/4. I think that would be better. Okay, so this is going to be a 6-inch wide piece, so 6 inches wide, and then I'm going to trim this to 2 3/4. Okay, and then this piece will come in. That might be too small. I think that should have been 3 inches. Okay, no bother. I have this piece, which is also 6 inches. Instead of 2 3/4, which is what this was, I'm going to cut this at 3 inches, because that will work better. It'll look nicer in the long run. Better. Okay, so 3 inches there, and then this piece will go on top of here in some form or fashion. I'll have to decide. All right, let me get some of this adhered, and then we'll come back and do a few embellishments. Okay, so I have not adhered this railroad tie just yet. I'm considering how I want to do that. But while I consider that, I thought I would add just a couple of embellishments on here. And I have a couple of stickers I thought would be fun also. I pulled these from Leave Nothing Behind because most of my other embellishments from the train either don't apply or are or have been used on other layouts. So I just thought maybe I would pull some of the critters from this collection out. I actually considered using some of these borders on here too, but then I thought, well, I don't think that's really what I want to do. So, but I do like the leaves and the owl and the moose and maybe even the bison that are on here. I think they would make good additions to this. If you've ever been on this ride, you know that there's a lot of dinosaur bones and just kind of vultures and things that you would find maybe out in the desert. Things that we see here in our national parks in Utah a lot of the time. And I thought that I would use some of this as kind of additional pieces for my embellishment clusters. I think though that the red side's going to get lost because you can see it blends in so much to my base page. But the darker side, because I'm fortunate that these are double-sided in the sense that they are monochromatic on the back, but they are at least a color instead of just being white. So I thought maybe I would trim just a couple of these off and use them with the animals as my embellishments. So I'm just using my precision point scissors to go ahead and continue the circles around as best I can. And I'll just do another couple so that I can put at least one in each cluster. Initially I had thought maybe they would be cute to add next to the photos as like a photo corner, but I think that might be too tedious for me today, so I'm not going to do that. But we've got these three that I've cut, so that'll work. And let's go ahead and grab some foam squares and we'll get these clusters assembled and put together. Where are we going to put the clusters? Let's see. In the sketch that we're following, they've got a cluster here, one down here, and one up here. But I have rearranged things just a little bit on there. And so I sort of did away with the little journal box that they had in this lower corner. You can see it right here. And I could use this for journaling, but I probably will use this for the title rather than for journaling. I think I will end up journaling across this sort of brown area with the tracks, or down here across the bottom. We'll have to wait and see when I get that far where the mood strikes me, but either of those places would work as long as I was using a dark enough pen to show up on this paper right here. So it really would probably work better on a lighter piece like this. So if if I start off and it's going to be a little bit too not easily seen, then I'll have to figure something else out. And maybe I can add an additional strip down here and write my journaling down that way. I'd rather not do that. I think it would be a little bit too tedious, but you know. So you'll want to tune into the flip through when I get that far so that you can see what I ended up doing. So we've got a railroad tie or sign, and then an owl, and I'm going to do something. I don't think I want to do anything green because you'll notice there's not a lot of green here. It's mostly red, right? For the red hills that we have here in Utah. And I didn't know this until I moved to Utah, but there is a place here in northern Utah, not too far from where I live, that's called the Golden Spike Monument. It's actually where the Transcontinental Railroad and the Pacific Railroad came together for the first time ever and made it so that we could travel from one coast to the other. So it's a very cool monument, and they actually have working steam engines that they demonstrate for you if you ever visit there. So if you're ever in Utah, it's well worth your time to go take a look, especially if you enjoy trains. But even if you don't enjoy trains, it's a neat historic site to see. So in case you're interested. All right. So this owl is going to come kind of to roost right here in this corner. And we're going to I'm going to put the moose, I think, even though we don't have moose, we have elk here in Utah. And I'm referring to Utah a lot because these red rocks are exactly like what you'll find in Bryce Canyon National Park. They're called hoodoos. And very, very cool if you've never seen them before. So I don't know if they can be found anywhere else in the world, but I'm going to add this elk with the moose, and we'll just kind of cover up the moose just a little bit. And we'll add them down here. Let me add a little bit of repositionable adhesive to my railroad sign. That'll go with them. May look like a target if I put that like that, huh? Maybe we'll do it more like here. Lots of hunting in Utah. My dad was a target shooter, pretty good one actually. And he shot black powder and air rifles and everything in between. But he was not a hunter. He did not enjoy the hunt like a lot of people here in Utah do. A lot of people come to Utah just for the hunting, but I really like animals and nature, so I am not really into that. But you know, there is a place for it as long as you're going to use the meat. If you're going to hunt and you use the meat, then great. I think there is definitely a place for that, and it's a sport that's important. But I also think that if you're not going to use the meat, then you ought ought to find something else to do. Maybe fish, do catch and release with fishing or something. Anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox now. Okay, I'm just cut these foam squares in half, one of these small ones in half, so that I could add a tiny little piece to each of the legs on this animal that's going to be added, so that they don't stick straight down to my layout. Okay, and I'm going to add one more large foam square in the middle so that it kind of keeps that from sticking down too. All right. This one I think I'm going to put right in here. Will that work? Okay, I have to put this down first, so let me go ahead and add some repositionable adhesive to my track here so that it can have a spot. And my title will go over that somewhat. And so will our larger animals. Larger hoofed animals, I think that's what they call them. I don't know. I am not a zoologist, so I'm not really sure. Okay, we need something else just about right here, I think, and then we'll be good to go. So let me just gather maybe some leaves or a smaller animal. We could do a little fox. We could do a fox and maybe a gopher. And add them with this guy in the middle, maybe. And I'm not going to pop them up. I'm just going to kind of add them in just sort of like that. Up the back of Emily's head. Hopefully she won't mind. And we'll just sort of stick this guy in between and sort of connect the two. Maybe we need a leaf or something. I'll use this yellow leaf. And here's another yellow leaf. I could use both of those. And lift this back up and tuck those kind of under. They need to be a little straighter so that there, okay. I think my railroad signs are supposed to be more like X's, and they have turned, most of them, and are more like plus signs. So I'm going to just fix that just a little bit so that maybe they make a little bit more sense. This one up here I also need to fix. Okay. All right, I think that about does it for us today. Let me know what you think. I think think this was a fun one to do, a little bit outside of what you would normally think of for Disneyland, but it still has plenty of whimsy and fun to it. And boy, this ride sure was fun. It was always one of my favorites when I was younger and would go to Disneyland. And it did not disappoint this time around either. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you haven't already done so, you might need to check and make sure that your notifications are set. I know someone had to redo those recently, and I'll try to remind everybody on the next video too. And you might just have to unsubscribe and resubscribe and reset the bell so that you are notified when my videos come out. If you would do that and just double check, that'd be great. Thanks so much. Until next time, I hope you have many more creative moments. Have a great day now.